Hey there, welcome back. So in the last lesson we looked at the 8 differences between formal, informal and semi-formal letters. Now in today's video we're going to be focusing on formal letters. So let's have a look at an example. It says, you recently bought some new furniture for your living room online. You were told that the furniture would arrive within 5 working days, but it has been 2 weeks and it has still not arrived. You phoned the shop but no action was taken. Write a letter to the shop manager. In the letter, explain that the furniture has not arrived, describe what happened when you phoned the shop, and say what you would like the manager to do. Now remember, any letter that we write in IELTS is going to follow the same structure. We're going to start with the greeting, then we have the opener, we have the 3 bullet points in separate paragraphs, we have the closer, and then we finish with the sign-off. Now, the first thing that we're going to write is the greeting, and that's going to be given to you in the question paper. Because we are writing to the shop manager, it's going to be a formal letter, and our opener is going to be something like this. Dear Sir or Madam, and then a comma. Now, you don't necessarily need to learn that because it's going to be in the question paper. So your answer really starts here with the opener. Now, the opener gives the purpose of the letter, and we said with formal letters we keep this brief. Now, in order to know what the purpose of the letter is, we need to look at the question and identify why are we writing this letter? So I think the answer is here. Say what you would like the manager to do. So we've bought some furniture and it has not arrived. Well, I'd like a refund personally. So I'm requesting a refund, which means the purpose of my letter is to make a request. So I would write a opener a bit like this. I am writing to request a refund for an armchair that I purchased from your online store several weeks ago. Okay, let's look at some of the useful language that I use. I am writing to request. So this is a fixed expression that we use when we're writing request letters. And there are different fixed expressions that we can use when we're writing different types of letter. So for a request letter, we could say, I'm writing to request, and then explain what the request is. However, we could also have a letter of inquiry, in which case you would use a different opener and a different fixed expression. You could write something like this. I'm writing to inquire about, and then what your inquiry is. Another very common question type in task 1 is to write a letter asking for permission to do something. So if you have that, then your letter could start something like this. I'm writing to request permission to, and then what you're requesting permission to do. Sometimes you have to give advice, in which case you could say, thank you for your letter requesting information about da-da-da. I hope the following advice will be of some help to you. So that would be your opener. And if you're writing an apology letter, your opener could be like this. I'm writing to apologize for, and then explain what you're apologizing for. Okay, now below this lesson, and don't go there yet, you'll find different fixed expressions for different letter types, and below that you're going to find a quiz. So after watching this video, don't go to it yet, it's a good idea to look through those fixed expressions and do the quizzes below. And you don't need to necessarily learn all of the fixed expressions, but learn the ones that you think are useful to you, so the ones that you like and you think sound impressive. Okay, let's go back to our letter. So after writing our greeting and our opener, we're going to focus on bullet point 1. So here it says, explain that the furniture has not arrived. Well, I'd say something like this. I bought this item during your super sale and I was informed that it would be arriving within 5 working days. This was particularly important for me because it was to be a present for my aunt. However, it has been 2 weeks and I'm still waiting. Right, okay, let's look at some of the language that I've used in this letter. I bought this item. So I've said this item so that I'm not constantly repeating armchair, armchair. So remember, it's a good idea to use synonyms instead of repeating the same nouns or verbs over and over again. So I might say armchair in the opener, this item in bullet point 1, and then later on I could refer to it as the chair. Okay, we also have I was informed. So that's a bit like saying I was told, except informed is slightly more formal than tell. But both are acceptable. And notice I have was informed. So this is the passive structure, and that's very useful for formal letters. I was informed that it would be arriving. Okay, it would be arriving is reported speech. So for example, the internet, or when I made the purchase, would say it will be arriving within 5 days, or it will arrive within 5 days. Now, when I'm reporting what I read, I would say it said that it would arrive within 5 days. So will becomes would in reported speech. Again, this is very useful for formal letters where you're reporting what somebody has told you, or you're reporting something that you've read on the internet. Okay, let's look at some more of the language. I've got however, so that's a very useful linking word that you'll use in task 2 all the time, and we also use however in formal letters. Okay, let's move on to bullet point 2, and in this bullet point we're going to be describing what happened when you phoned the shop. This is what I'd write. I called your store last week and spoke to one of your customer assistants. He told me that my chair had already been shipped but was unable to provide me with a tracking number. When I asked to be transferred to a manager, he outright refused, claiming that they were busy. I find this service to be far below the standards that your store claims in its advertisements. Right, okay, so that's bullet point 2. Now let's look at some of the language I use. So, customer assistant, so that's specific to this type of letter. Customer assistant works in a shop and I called the customer assistant. It's kind of like saying I spoke to the waiter if you were in a cafe or a restaurant. We've got had already been shipped. Okay, so that's reported speech again, because the customer assistant tells me on the phone, it has already been shipped. Now I'm reporting what he says, and has becomes had. So I say, he told me that my chair had already been shipped. So again, reported speech is very useful for general task 1. Next we have was unable. So was unable just means couldn't, but it's a more formal way of saying couldn't. And these little differences are what gets you a higher score in task 1. We also have outright refused. He outright refused. So again, this is just like saying refused or declined, except making it a bit more exciting. Now, normally we don't use these kind of intensifying adjectives, but they're a good way of showing advanced language for your task 1 questions. Then afterwards we have far below, so far below the standards that your store claims in its advertisements. And again, I'm just emphasizing that it's below the standards, it's far below the standards. Right, let's move on to bullet point 3, and this is what I would say. I would like to express my dissatisfaction with the service I have received and request that you cancel the order. Additionally, I would appreciate a full refund, which includes postage fees. If the chair is on its way to my home, which I highly doubt, I shall be sending it right back to you. Okay, so you can tell I'm quite annoyed now. Let's look at some of the language. I would like to express my dissatisfaction. So that's the same as just saying, I am dissatisfied, except it's a more formal way of expressing that. So, I am dissatisfied, I would like to express my dissatisfaction. Or you could say, I am happy, or I would like to express my happiness or my gratification. Okay, so a useful phrase that we can use in our formal letters. We also have request that you cancel the order. So I'm not saying I want you to cancel the order. I'm making it more formal by saying I would request that you cancel the order. We have additionally, which again is a formal linking word and very useful for task 1 formal letters. And we have would appreciate a full refund. So again, I'm not saying I want a full refund. I'm saying I would appreciate a full refund. And that's more polite and more formal. Okay, and then we also have shall, which is a modal verb, which we don't really use when we're speaking, but it's the kind of modal verb that we can use in a formal letter. Okay, now we're going to move on to the closer. What do you think of this? Please reply to confirm the cancellation and a refund at your earliest convenience. So nice and short, and again we're using a fixed expression. Please reply to confirm the cancellation and refund at your earliest convenience. So we've got this useful language, which is a fixed expression for when we write a closer for a request letter, and we have different closers and different fixed expressions for different letters. So here we have the one for a request letter. If we're writing a permission letter, then we might want to end like this. Thank you for considering my request to. Advice: I hope that you found these recommendations of use. Please do not hesitate to contact me should you have any further questions. And an apology. Once again, I'm sorry for any inconvenience caused. And again, it's a good idea to look through the list of fixed expressions which are below this lesson, do the quiz, and try to remember a few of these fixed expressions that you can use in different letter types. Okay, now we finish with the sign-off. And the sign-off, because we start with Dear Sir or Madam, is going to be yours faithfully, comma, and then your name. So when we start with Dear Sir or Madam, we have yours faithfully. When we start with Dear and then we have a name, and it's a formal or semi-formal letter, we're going to end with yours sincerely. So that's our sign-off. Now let's have a look at our answer in whole. So here it is now, and you'll see from the structure, we have a nice short opener. It's just one sentence long, and that's typical. We have short openers and short closers in formal letters. When we talk about bullet point 1, we have 3 sentences. So when you talk about each bullet point, you want between 3 and 4 sentences, okay? Because that shows the examiner that you're fully developing each bullet point. So bullet point 1 has 3 sentences, bullet point 2 has 4, bullet point 3 has 3 sentences, and then our closer has 1 sentence, and then we have the sign-off. So in total, the word count is 204 words, which is what you'd really be hoping to write for a high-level Task 1 answer. Remember, the minimum is 150 words, but if you want to be scoring 7, 8, or 9 in General Task 1, then you really want to be writing over 170 and more like 190 or 200 words. Again, it depends on the letter and how much detail you want to go into, but if you can write a letter of 204 or more words in 20 minutes, then that's great. Go for those details as long as they're relevant. Okay, so in the last lesson we looked at 8 differences between formal and informal letters, and we're just going to check the criteria now to make sure that our formal letter is acceptable. The first one, we have an appropriate greeting and sign-off. The second, we have an appropriate opener and closer. Number 3, no contractions in formal letters. Number 4, formal linking words. Number 5, not many idioms or phrasal verbs. Number 6, not many intensifying adjectives or adverbs. Number 7, polite when making requests and asking questions. And number 8, no exclamation marks. Okay, so let's see how our letter does. So, an appropriate greeting and sign-off, yes, we've got Dear Sir or Madam, and we've got yours faithfully, Rachel Buchanan. By the way, I just invented that name, and feel free to invent any name. I like to put in very English-sounding names in the sign-off. Just make sure that you write a name. Okay, next. An appropriate opener and closer, yes. We've got the opener and we've got the closer, and they're both short and to the point, which is what you need in a formal letter. We've got no contractions, good. We've got formal linking words like however and additionally. We've got not many idioms or phrasal verbs. I looked through, I couldn't find any idioms or phrasal verbs, but you might be able to find some. The main point is that there are not many idioms or phrasal verbs in formal letters. Number 6, not many intensifying adjectives or adverbs. Okay, I do have quite a few. We've got particularly important, outright refused, far below the standards, highly doubt. So 4 intensifying adjectives and adverbs. Normally there would be more in informal letters, and you'll see that when we focus on informal letters later on in this course. Okay, number 7, polite when making requests and asking questions. Yes, very polite. We can see that here and here. Okay, remember formal letters should be polite. Even if you're unhappy, which for example I am in this letter, I'm quite clearly unhappy, but I'm still very polite when making requests and asking questions. It's all about being passive-aggressive. Okay, and finally, number 8, no exclamation marks. So we have no exclamation marks. Right, I hope this video has helped, and remember below you're going to have some quizzes, some useful fixed expressions, and some more quizzes. So do those before going on to the next lesson, where you are going to be writing a formal letter. Okay, best of luck with your studies, and I'll see you in the next lesson. Bye.